She seemed perfect, but what I learned about her that day turned everything upside down. It was the last straw. After that, I decided to act. No one could believe that I did it, but I had to. Even though I didn't want it to happen, it did. Find out at the end of the story how it all ended. The morning it began, I remember the light slanting through the kitchen blinds like it always did. Soft, ordinary, unbothered by the messes people made of their lives. Ellie was rushing out, late again. She laughed nervously when I pointed out the pink smear on her blouse, a color I'd never seen her wear, and lipstick in a shade she'd always claimed to hate. She brushed it off with some excuse about bumping into a co-worker's wife in the break room. I nodded, sipping my coffee, saying nothing, but something in my chest clenched tight for a second longer than it should have. That silence was the moment the first domino tipped. Days passed and I tried to shake the unease. We'd had rough patches before, minor friction between two people trying to survive marriage. But this didn't feel like friction. It felt like static, like I was hearing a signal from somewhere else, scrambled and far away, but just clear enough to pick up. That next week she came home with a new phone. Not an upgrade, not a model she'd mentioned wanting, just new. I asked about the old one, and she said she lost it at work, some stupid office party with dim lights and too much wine. I waited until she was in the shower to look at it. The screen was blank, factory reset, but under contacts one remained, just one. No photo, no last name, just mechanic. She didn't know I noticed, and I didn't confront her. Not then. Instead, I started cleaning the garage. Not to calm myself, but to think, to plan. I pulled her car in that night under the pretense of checking the tire pressure, a habit she knew I took pride in. When she went to sleep, I took the back seat out completely. Tools, bolts, panel by panel, careful not to leave a trace. It was buried under the padding, slipped between frame and foam like a secret tucked behind a smile. A used SIM card, and a piece of paper folded in half, greasy fingerprint pressed into the corner. Scrawled in Sharpie, same trailer, Thursday. That was the first time in weeks I smiled. Not bitter, not cynical. It was the kind of smile you wear when you stop hoping and start working. I marked Thursday on my calendar. She had the night shift again. Of course she did. I rented a black truck under a fake name, paid cash. Took an untraceable phone with a number no one had. The drive out of town felt longer than it was. Every cracked billboard and dusty mile of roadside lit me up with anticipation. Her story didn't fit together anymore. Every glance, every sentence had seams I'd never noticed before, and now I could feel it all unraveling under my skin. The trailer park was the kind of place no one wanted to admit existed, just 30 miles outside a city full of glass towers and yoga moms. Rusted satellite dishes leaned like tombstones. Trash bags clung to fences like they'd been flung there in a storm. Most of the trailers were dark, curtains drawn tight, except for one. Faint glow from the window, a line of boots on the porch. The address matched the one I'd traced from the SIM card's last ping. I waited. The air was thick with wet earth, and a storm had passed hours before, leaving the dirt soft and clinging. My boots sank as I crept behind a parked car. And then, like clockwork, I saw her, Ellie, wearing the navy tracksuit she always said made her look invisible. Maybe she liked being invisible out here. She knocked. The door opened. A man, tall, with a bald patch and a white tank top, stepped aside. She smiled. The smile I used to think was only mine. And she went inside. The door shut. I waited. The windows were too high, so I walked the perimeter. I tried to find an angle, even climbed a crooked cement block to peek in. But that's when it happened. The trailer door suddenly swung open, and a different man stepped out. Younger, with a mutt on a leash and a cigarette in his mouth. My heart leapt straight to my throat. I ducked behind the corner of the trailer, sliding into a puddle of thick, cold mud. He called out, "You lost or something?" I stood up slow, brushing off my jeans, forcing my voice into something soft and dumb. "Sorry, man, wrong place. Looking for a guy sells truck parts. My brother told me about him. Guess I got the number wrong." The guy squinted, dragged the dog back. "This is private property." "Yeah," I mumbled, backing off, forcing a chuckle. "My bad." He watched me as I walked down the gravel path, my boots slick with mud and my face flushed. I didn't dare turn around until I was back behind the wheel. My heart was punching at my ribs, not from fear but rage. That kind of calm, cold rage that doesn't explode. It just simmers, stays. I didn't drive home. I went to a gas station, cleaned my hands, and sat in the lot for 2 hours writing notes on a napkin. Times, patterns, vehicles. The way she walked, the way she smiled. I needed more than a hunch. I needed proof. I didn't want to confront her with questions she could deny. I wanted a verdict she couldn't argue. Because the man she thought she'd fooled, he was about to become the man she wished she never lied to. And the trailer, it was just the beginning. I didn't sleep after the trailer. My body was exhausted, but my mind moved like clockwork, ticking over every interaction, every detail I used to shrug off. Her new phone, that lipstick, the way she always smiled just a little too fast when I asked a casual question. It was all unraveling. She didn't know it yet, but the web she spun had a hole, and I was slipping through it. I needed proof, real proof. So I bought a drone, not a toy store kind, but something built to linger unseen. I paired it with a camera I embedded inside a streetlight casing. I painted it, aged it with sandpaper, then climbed up before dawn to install it outside the trailer's entrance. Just another utility box to anyone passing by. But for me, it was a lighthouse, and I was watching the storm roll in. She came back on Thursday. Same navy tracksuit, same crooked smile. I watched live from my garage, pretending to polish engine parts while my screen showed her knocking on the trailer door. She went in. 10 minutes later, the guy came out first, bare-chested, yawning, casual. She followed him, laughing, tossing a wad of cash into his hand. Then she kissed him. It was casual, comfortable, not rushed, not nervous, like they did this all the time. Then her voice came through, faint but unmistakable. He still thinks I worked the night shift. He laughed. Bastard. I paused the feed right there, her face mid-laugh, her betrayal looping on a frozen screen. That was it. That was all I needed. But I wasn't interested in confrontation. I wanted revelation. I found a used electronics shop a few towns over, picked up a clunky flat screen and set it up to autoplay a USB drive. I loaded the footage, clean, edited just enough, and put it on loop. Packaged the whole thing in a plain brown box with fake delivery tags and a forged receipt. To the guy in the trailer, it'd look like a gift, a surprise from his lady, and then he'd press play, and she'd burn. I posed as a courier the next Thursday, decked out in a vest and helmet with fake documents in hand. I parked near the lot, wheeled the box up the porch, knocked once, and shouted through the door. Delivery for Randy, gift drop from Melissa. No answer, even better. I left it by the door and walked away with my heart pounding. But just as I was about to climb into the van, I saw her car. She wasn't at work. She was pulling into the trailer yard. My breath caught. I ducked behind a flower bed just in time. She parked close, stepped out slowly and looked around. Not with suspicion, with hesitation, like something felt off. For a split second, our eyes met in the mirror of her side view. She frowned, whispered something, didn't move closer. Then she walked inside. I stayed hidden in that mud for another 10 minutes, soaked and freezing, leg cramping like hell. I didn't move until the yard was quiet again. Then I limped around the back, climbed the gate, and sliced open my calf on a broken metal grate. The blood didn't matter. It felt justified, necessary. That night at home, she was all smiles again, made dinner like nothing happened, asked about my day, hummed a song I used to love, and gave me a kiss on the cheek that felt like ice. But something had shifted. She knew something was wrong. She just didn't know how deep it went. And now I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was focused. By the next morning, I was running on caffeine and spite. The cut on my leg throbbed, raw and red, but I left it. Let it sting. Pain reminded me what was real. Every moment at home now felt like theater. Her fake concern, her sudden urge to clean the kitchen at midnight. The way she lingered near me like proximity could erase guilt. She didn't ask about the blood on my jeans. Maybe she noticed. Maybe she didn't want to know. But I wasn't wasting another second reacting. I'd moved past that. I was going to orchestrate. That weekend, I upgraded the setup, swapped the drone for a better lens, and added motion detection to the street lamp camera. It wasn't enough to just watch. I wanted to record automatically. I also started mapping her patterns, her work hours, lunch breaks, trips to her sister's. She never went to her sister's. Not once. GPS data from her car showed she made 2 regular stops, a 24-hour gas station and the trailer. She wasn't careful anymore. That made her sloppy, and me dangerous. Then the jackpot hit. 3 days after the TV dropped, the lighthouse caught everything. It was early afternoon. She stepped out of the trailer first, sweatpants, ponytail, grinning. He followed shirtless, grabbing her by the waist like they were teenagers sneaking kisses behind the gym. She handed him an envelope, thick, and kissed him hard. That's when I heard her again. On the mic, faint but clear. "That idiot still thinks I'm working the night shift." Same line, same laugh. She was proud of it now, like it was part of the game. I could have confronted her right then, but I had something else in mind. The tape was good, but I wanted her to feel it. Not just be caught, but unravel. So I went digital. I found a local electronics repair guy with a habit of loose lips. I posed as a customer, testing an old flash drive for playback. On it, just the kiss, the line, the cash handoff. Short, clear, damning. I mentioned I was heading to the same trailer park, joked about needing directions. The guy recognized the trailer immediately. "Randy's place," he said. "That scumbag still hustling people?" Perfect. He offered to fix the TV if it was damaged. I let him talk. Told him I'd drop off a new flash drive at Randy's place. Called it payback. He laughed. All I needed was someone else to witness it. That's how the rumor would start. An anonymous USB, a busted TV, and a neighborhood full of nosy neighbors. But the next move was risky. I drove back out, this time during the day. No costume, no courier vest, just me and a new preloaded flash drive in a plain envelope. I taped it to the inside of the trailer door. That was the last delivery. Then I disappeared. I deleted the surveillance app, trashed the drone, and burned the backup notes. I needed no more evidence. I had enough. It was time to push the chaos. Back home, I started dismantling her world in silence. I opened her old laptop, one she hadn't used in months. Her passwords hadn't changed. There was an autologged chat in a group thread. 3 names, all women I'd never met. They called themselves the After Party. I read through the messages. She called me the Anchor, said she felt like she was finally alive again, that Randy makes her feel dangerous. One message chilled me. "That bastard's exposing me. If he knows, it's over." She knew, not all of it, but enough to realize someone was turning up the heat. She was spiraling. The next day, I hosted a barbecue. Friends, neighbors, even a few people from work. I invited an old buddy of mine, Troy, who just so happened to be a sheriff's deputy in our county. I hadn't seen him in years. Ellie used to love his wife. They talked like sisters once. I kept the atmosphere light. Beer, ribs, music, lawn games. Ellie floated through the yard with a frozen smile, like she couldn't quite decide if she was playing hostess or hostage. When Troy and I were alone near the fire pit, I casually brought up the crazy stuff going on out near the trailer park. Said I'd heard someone dropped off a video package that caused a scene. "Really?" he asked. I shrugged. "They say traitors get burned on screens these days." He gave a low whistle and laughed, not realizing how real that statement was. Ellie, standing 10 feet away, dropped her wine glass. Blamed it on the dog. She didn't say much after that. That night, she slept curled up like a child, turned away from me. I stared at the ceiling and waited for her to break. The next morning, she was gone. No note, just gone. I found her car abandoned at a gas station 20 minutes north. The keys were still in the ignition. Her purse, too. Empty. I didn't report it. I knew where she wasn't, and that was enough. 3 days later, she returned. Her eyes were bloodshot. She looked thinner, worn out. She didn't speak at first, just stood in the doorway with a shaky hand on her stomach. Then she whispered it. "I'm pregnant." It landed like a punch to the ribs. But I didn't flinch. Instead, I smiled, warm, gentle, and invited her to dinner. I set the table like it was our anniversary again. White plates, tall glasses, candles flickering just soft enough to cast warmth over polished silver. Ellie came downstairs in a soft beige blouse, her hair brushed like she was heading into a job interview, not walking into judgment. She looked nervous, not broken, yet, but she felt the storm in the air. She sat down, eyes darting to every detail. I poured wine, the deep red kind that leaves marks, then carved into the roast like it was just another date night. We barely spoke. She ate slow. I watched her more than my plate. I could tell she was waiting for something, an argument, maybe a confession. Instead, I gave her an envelope. It sat quietly beside her plate, unsealed, the corner smudged slightly from where I'd gripped it. She opened it like it might be rigged to explode. Her fingers trembled the moment she saw the header. Paternity test results. Her face changed. That fake calm drained off her like makeup in the rain. She read the whole thing, blinked, and read it again. "You had a test done?" she said quietly. I didn't answer. I just took another sip of wine. "It's not mine," I said, calm as breath. "And now you know." She tried to speak, but nothing came out. Her jaw tightened. Her chest heaved like she was holding something down. Grief or guilt didn't matter. I reached under the table and gave her the second envelope. She hesitated, then opened it. Her company's logo was printed top left. A letter addressed to HR. It detailed inappropriate conduct, misuse of company time, a relationship with someone in a supervisory role. It was written like a formal complaint, but anonymous. You sent this?" she asked, barely audible. I smiled, just enough. "You thought the trailer was the end of it?" Her hand shot out, knocking over her wine glass. It shattered. Red droplets sprayed across the white cloth like a crime scene. She gasped, backed away from the table, and bolted for the door. Barefoot, shaking, no phone. I didn't move. I just watched her vanish into the night. After cleaning the glass and scraping her untouched cake into the trash, I opened the laptop and hit send. The same footage from the trailer, her voice, her kiss, her lie, was now en route to 3 inboxes: her company's HR department, their internal ethics board, and Randy. His email got something special: a photo of his truck parked near the school. The image was time-stamped, location verified, clear as a courtroom blow-up. He worked in youth outreach. That kind of man doesn't survive scandal. Ellie's job? It was already cracking. I'd timed the video email for just after office hours, so the staff would arrive to whispers the next morning. Later that night, I checked our home cameras. The one across the street had caught everything. Her face when she opened the envelope, her running from the house, the shattered wine. All of it saved, all of it organized, all of it usable. By the next morning, I had 6 missed calls from her number. Then came the voicemails. Then silence. When her GPS signal vanished near a bridge outside town, I almost believed she jumped. But no, Ellie never jumped. She just landed somewhere new. 2 days later, I found her on a pawn shop security feed. She was trying to sell jewelry, heirloom pieces registered to our kids. Desperate, reckless, and obvious. The pawn shop flagged the sale and filed a suspicious activity report. Her ID pinged on a system I'd already nudged into motion. See, during that barbecue, I'd mentioned the trailer mess to my friend Troy. The deputy played it like a rumor, like gossip. He laughed when I joked, "These days, traitors get burned on screens." Ellie didn't laugh. She dropped her wine that night, and now she was burning. The day after the pawn shop report, she was picked up. Not charged, just detained. Not questioned, documented, marked. Her job suspended her pending investigation. Randy disappeared off social media. And me? I was home, drinking coffee, watching our wedding video for the first time in a decade. Not to remember, to compare. Because that girl in white, she wasn't this woman, and I had one more move left. By the time Ellie was officially suspended from her job, her world was already bleeding at the seams. The office claimed it was temporary while they conducted an internal review, but I knew better. That letter hadn't just pointed fingers. It came with evidence. Video, audio, a chain of activity that lined up perfectly with her absence reports and unauthorized hours logged into the company system. Randy vanished within the week. His personal Facebook was wiped, LinkedIn deleted, Even his name was stripped from the after-school volunteer website he used to brag about. I imagined him sitting in a dark apartment somewhere, watching the wreckage pile up, reading and rereading the photo I'd sent of his car illegally parked near that school. The note I left him had been short. Smile. You're on camera. The Parents Association will love this. But it wasn't just Randy's name that started circulating. Ellie's face had become a whispered headline. The recording I'd left running during the dinner, her meltdown, the smashed wine glass, her sprint out of the house barefoot, had found its way to the right inboxes. School board officials, the parents' group chat, the neighborhood Facebook group, where she'd once coordinated bake sales and trash pickup days like a suburban queen. Now, she was a cautionary tale. A cracked photo of her face became the thread banner on a private chat labeled Suburb Watch Messy Edition. The video didn't leak publicly yet, but it didn't have to. Gossip travels faster than uploads. She tried to run. I saw it coming. The moment I noticed her rental listings popping up in the browser history of her laptop, I knew she was planning to vanish. That's when I leaned in further. The jewelry stunt had given law enforcement a reason to log her, but I gave them another. I filed an anonymous report with Child Services. Said she was attempting to sell items registered to our children. Said she'd been recorded during a mental breakdown in our home. Said I had full custody already and feared for what she might do next. I knew how to word it. Didn't accuse her of anything. Just flagged concern. That was enough. They froze her assets within 2 days. She couldn't access our joint accounts anymore. Her personal ones? Half of those were linked to the job she just lost. The ones that weren't? I'd already copied the statements and attached them to the formal custody paperwork my lawyer submitted the day after the barbecue. I filed for sole custody. On paper, it was a clean request. No mudslinging, just factual, cold. But behind it, scorched earth. Ellie had always been a planner, calculated, but panic had stripped her of that. Now she flailed. I caught glimpses of it in the texts she sent from burner numbers, desperate messages that read like they were typed through tears. Please stop this. We can talk. You still love me. I know you do. I'll go away, just not like this. I never answered, not one. Instead, I hosted another event. Nothing big, just a casual cookout for a few neighbors, mostly parents. I invited Troy again. Let him drink a beer and tell me how damn wild things had gotten around here lately. Everyone laughed when someone joked, Jack's yard is safer than the mayor's office these days. I just smiled. While they chatted under the patio lights, I walked inside and queued up a screen recording of the footage. Ellie's kiss, her laugh, the money, the quote, he still thinks I work the night shift. I didn't show it to anyone. Just set the loop running silently on my study monitor. Door open a crack. One of the moms wandered in looking for the bathroom, paused, stared at the screen for maybe 3 seconds too long before stepping away. I didn't say a word. Word of mouth would take it from there. That's all I ever needed. By the end of the week, the school rescinded Ellie's parent council status. She was quietly removed from 2 volunteer boards. Her phone, when it still pinged signals, was seen near the edge of town. Cheap motels, cash-only diners, no pattern. She was floating. That Sunday, I got an email from her sister. Simple subject line. Please call her. I didn't open it. She told her family I kicked her out, that I turned cold after a rough patch, that I'd fallen for someone else. Classic projection. The irony was, she was right. There was someone else, but not in the way she meant. There was someone else I became, the version of me she never imagined, the one who didn't raise his voice or beg or cry, the one who just waited for the right moment to flip the switch. And now she was running from shadows she couldn't trace. I kept the cameras rolling, the recordings stored, the emails time-stamped, not for revenge, for the record. Because eventually this would go to court, or maybe it would never get that far. Maybe she'd disappear completely. But either way, when it came time to tell the truth, to the lawyers, the judge, the kids, I wouldn't need to say a word. I'd have it all. And all she'd have left was the echo of her own voice. Still laughing, still smug, still wrong. She came back on a Wednesday. I'd just returned from a meeting with my lawyer, documents in hand, when I saw her sitting on the porch like a ghost, waiting for a second chance at life. She looked worn out, thinner, like sleep hadn't visited her in days. Her hair was matted at the ends, her eyes distant, but her nails were still painted. Some part of her still thought appearances mattered. I didn't say anything, just unlocked the door and let her follow me inside. She walked like she was entering someone else's house. Inside, she stood in the hallway and looked around like everything had changed. It had. "I've been staying with my cousin," she said softly. I I didn't want to come back until I was sure it was safe." That word, safe. She was trying to flip it, make herself the one who needed protection. A clever play, one I'd seen coming. "I heard about the investigation," she added. "I've been suspended. They won't even let me collect my files." I didn't ask who they were. I already knew. I'd seen the emails. She sat down at the edge of the couch like a child waiting for punishment. "I know what I did," she said. "I know how bad it looks." Then she pulled a crumpled letter from her bag, something she'd scribbled by hand. I didn't touch it, just let her unfold it herself. It was an apology, a loose one, more about regret than responsibility. She talked about pressure, losing herself, how her friends had influenced her, how Randy had encouraged the wrong things. "He made it feel like I could breathe again," she said, not realizing how damning that sounded. I waited until she was done speaking before I handed her a folder. Inside was the full custody filing, the financial breakdown, a list of household assets, all itemized. She didn't cry this time. She just stared at the papers, breathing slow, then asked, "So that's it?" "No," I said. "That's the beginning." She tried a different tactic. "I'm pregnant." I raised an eyebrow. "Still?" Her mouth opened, closed, and opened again. "I had a second test," she said. "It's yours." I stood up and walked to the kitchen, opened a drawer, pulled out a small envelope, and tossed it on the coffee table. The lab report. The second test. I'd already done it. It wasn't mine. Her face froze in place. She sat there with her mouth slightly open, like a glitch in a system. "Whose is it?" she asked. "I didn't run his DNA," I replied. "Didn't care to." She started shaking. "You don't understand. I wasn't supposed to fall apart like this." That much was true. She'd planned the affair like a vacation. Get away, feel good, come back with just enough guilt to seem remorseful. But she hadn't planned on exposure, on surveillance, on a man who'd stop asking questions and start keeping records. She stood, voice rising. "You're punishing me like I'm evil." "No," I said. "I'm punishing you like I'm finished." She took a breath, pulled out her phone, and showed me a drafted post, a message to her family, to friends. It painted me as emotionally distant, cold, said I refused therapy, that I shut her out. "You sure you want to share that?" I asked. She blinked, so I opened my laptop, queued up the video, her face in the trailer, her voice saying, "He still thinks I work the night shift." The kiss, the envelope of cash, the smile that used to be mine. I didn't press play, just let the screen sit there. "You think I'm bluffing?" I asked. She slowly set the phone down. I watched the fight leave her shoulders. "I'll sign," she said, "but I want to keep the house." I laughed once, low and quiet. "You're not even going to be in the state long enough to need a house." She looked up, confused. That's when I showed her the last page in the folder. A complaint submitted to her new landlord, the one who owned the complex she'd been eyeing across the county line. It detailed potential fraud, multiple outstanding issues tied to child services, a flagged employment history, and I signed it with her name. Fake email, masked IP, anonymous enough to be untraceable. She stared at it, realizing every exit was blocked. "You forged my name," she whispered. "You gave up rights when you started faking orgasms." She slapped me, hard but not surprising. The cameras caught it, just like they caught her screaming 5 minutes later, knocking over a lamp, storming out with her shoes in one hand and her purse forgotten behind her. That footage? That was for court. Proof of her behavior, her instability, her temper. I sent it to my lawyer before the door even shut behind her. The next day the call came in. Her job? Officially terminated. Her name? removed from every professional board she sat on. Her resume now came with digital scars, whispers on forums, quiet messages exchanged between hiring managers. In her line of work, reputation was everything. Now she didn't have one. Later that night, I opened the last file on my desktop, an audio clip from weeks ago. Randy's voice drunk, bragging on speakerphone. She won't leave him. She's got too much to lose. He was right. She had everything to lose. So I made sure she did. They served her at 10:03 a.m., right in the middle of her first job interview since being fired. A beige folder handed over by a process server in a coffee shop on the west side of town. 2 pages. My signature on both. Final custody papers, notification of asset freeze, a restraining order filed under protective parental clause. Everything timed with precision. By the time she looked up from the documents, her interviewer had already stood and stepped away. That moment, her standing alone, blinking through panic in a room full of silent witnesses, that was the real closure. Not a confrontation, not revenge, just the world catching up. I watched it from the parking lot, 3 cars back, not to gloat, just to confirm. She walked out 10 minutes later, eyes glassy, hands shaking, phone to her ear. Calling someone, anyone. I knew the routine by now. First her sister who stopped answering, then the former friends who had quietly unfollowed her, then Randy whose number was disconnected. There was no one left to pick up. That evening she showed up at the house. She stood by the gate for a long time, like she was trying to build the courage to press the buzzer. Eventually she did. I let her speak through the intercom, just long enough to hear her ask, "Can we talk?" I answered with silence, then pressed end. She didn't ring again. I watched from the upstairs window as she stood there, twisting her hands, pacing. She stayed for almost an hour, then walked away. That was the last time I saw her. In the weeks that followed, everything moved fast. The divorce finalized without a challenge. My lawyer was clean, surgical, and left nothing vulnerable. Full custody was granted without mediation. The court acknowledged emotional instability and evidence of deliberate deception. The footage helped. So did the logs, the screenshots, the signed statements. In the end, the system didn't need to believe me. It just needed the truth. She tried to contact the kids once, sent a letter, handwritten, begging for a call, just to hear their voices. I didn't tear it up. I scanned it, logged it, and forwarded it to my attorney. We kept it for the file, a record of her attempts, a record of mine. I didn't tell them about the letter. When they asked why their mom wasn't calling, I just said, she needs time to work on herself. They accepted that. Kids are smarter than we give them credit for. They could already sense something had changed, something they couldn't put into words yet, but felt, like a draft coming through a sealed window. I moved us into a smaller house, still in the same town, still close to their school. We kept the dog. We got a bigger TV. Life moved forward piece by piece, but I kept one thing from the old house, the camera in the lamp, not to spy, just to remind myself what it felt like to look away too long. I don't check it often, just enough to remember how it started, how she smiled while lying, how I almost let it slide. Almost. One night I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring out. Voicemail pinged seconds later. Her voice, she sounded tired, empty. No rage this time, no demands. "I get it," she said. "I understand now. What I did, what it cost. I lost everything. I just wanted you to know that I do regret it. I really do." A pause. I thought it would be an escape, a second life, but it killed both. She didn't ask for forgiveness, just said goodbye. I didn't save the message. I didn't block the number either. It didn't matter anymore. I still had the final report on her. After everything crumbled, after the job, the apartment, the family, she'd tried one last act of survival, moved to a different state, picked up a part-time job in a hotel under a different last name, said she was starting over. No drama, just small. I'd let her have that. I wasn't interested in dragging the ashes. But the name she used, it was close to mine. One letter off. That told me everything. Even in her exile, she couldn't completely detach. Couldn't escape the version of me she abandoned. And that's the thing about people like her. They think betrayal is a step forward, that you cheat, lie, cover your tracks, and you get to walk away into something better. But they always forget what they leave behind. The camera, the trail, the man watching quietly while she thinks she's in control, and the moment she realizes she never was. In the end, there was no courtroom showdown, no shouting in the rain, no last-second appeal. There was just paperwork, signatures, a mailbox full of silence, and a woman with nothing left to burn. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this, and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.